Hi, this is Nicole, host of Haunted Mid-Atlantic Tales, and this is episode 15. It's good to see you again, and once again, we usually start off with a story about the supernatural and our own connectivity to it. All of us likely have a spiritual connection, even if we haven't explored it yet, and experiences with the other side. I myself come from a family who are very open and upfront about that. We have definitely shamanic roots, Native American and Indigenous African. We have had supernatural ghost experiences, paranormal activity in my grandmother's ancestral house on my dad's side and on my mother's side too. Mom's had those kind of encounters. I have, and almost every house that I've lived in, including this one. Old Town Alexandria itself is a colonial city with a very storied past and a bloody and uncomfortable one. It's not surprising that ghosts linger in the places where trauma has yet to be resolved and legends have yet to be put to rest. I encourage all of you to hold space for yourself to heal during this very tumultuous time in our history, to look to the Black community and truly support us in what we are going through, because what happened to Dante, what happened to George Floyd, and what happened to Breonna, it was more than preventable. It was unconscionable. And that we're still waiting for justice in a system that's built upon our labor and, our tears and our sadness is definitely going to be a running theme in the Haunted Mid-Atlantic series. I'm not going to be apologetic about the state of being Black in America and ghosts that are both political, social, and paranormal. I am going to be co-hosting a Black Rock-Her Roundtable with several Mid-Atlantic artists, such as Gutter Songbird, Samantha Hollins, Garrett F. Bell, once again, from Palisburn, Philadelphia, Madame St. Beatrice from New York City, and Toronto-born Lena Dawes, the acclaimed author of What Are You Doing Here? A Black Woman's Life and Liberation in Heavy Metal. Tune in, please, on April 30th, 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 10 days from now, and I'll be checking back with you soon to give you updates on that. And without further ado, let's get into The Ghost of Virginia and more haunted tales from the Mid-Atlantic. The Ghost of Virginia. Chapter 29, Shenandoah Valley Vignettes. A poltergeist exorcised. In an obscure and long out-of-print book titled The Life and Work of Prince Demetrius Gallitzin, the priest wrote about poltergeist activity in an old house in Middleway, which was then part of Virginia and now West Virginia. It occurred in 1797 and is one of the few such cases that's reported in America. According to witnesses that Gallitzin interviewed, objects were thrown and ungodly noises were heard, but never rationally explained by anybody. Articles of clothing that hung on the walls and were locked in chests were cut to ribbons, and food stored in the pantry were found mixed together, ruined, or broken out of the jars. One young girl, who was believed to have been the medium through which the alleged evil spirit and the energy worked, was so overcome by the apparitional sightings and other phenomena that she almost died of fright and stress. Methodist ministers were called to restore the peace of the house, but the more holy water they sprinkled about, the more violent the manifestations became. One night, when the family and neighbors gathered to sing hymns to each other, a pillow was thrown in the face of one person praying, and another witness had a bowl of milk dumped over her head, although no mortal was standing near her. As a last measure, just as the family was preparing to abandon the house and move, the Reverend Daniel Cahill came to conduct an exorcism, and it apparently worked. So Gallitzin arrived afterwards to record the incident in his book, and he left convinced that the sacred rites had been successful. The Death Angel. Author's note: this was filed some time ago on the internet, by a young lady in eastern West Virginia, although the specific location has never been identified. This happened to my father, who used to do security up at the hospital. He got to know when the death angel was around, the Reaper. He would know because he could feel a cold presence before anyone passed away. In particular, an incident happened to an older lady. She was in the intensive care unit. Dad heard her calling one night and went to her room to check things out. She kept asking him to remove the man standing at the foot of her bed, begging him, please, make him leave. A man he couldn't see. And she kept saying it wasn't her time to go, it wasn't her time to go. Please, let me stay. Dad believed that the old woman knew the presence, that what she had seen was the angel of death, come to take her away. She asked him not to leave her and to stay in the room until the man left. When she told him that he had gone, Dad stayed about 10 minutes and then went. A few minutes later, my dad was standing around the corner from the room when he felt that cold presence. He then heard the heart monitor go off. The old woman had passed away before anyone could assist her. Dad said that the death angel had taken another. It's not just something that I wanted to throw at you without a content warning. Many people in the medical field and who have been in the hospital before have had near-death experiences, just witnessing being near the end or being there for the end. And I guess whatever entity looks over that is there. And not everyone responds to it in the same way. Some people accept it because they've been waiting, and others are afraid, and it's okay to be afraid to pass on. That is an integral part of why spirits are still here and that we can communicate with them. Chapter 54, Ghost on Ghost Tours, a parade of orbs. Another Lynchburg woman, who prefers to remain anonymous, says one night, a quarter of a century ago, she was in the bedroom getting her son ready for bed when she saw a blue orb hovering into the room. It was joined by two other orbs, one orange and the other yellow. All three circles took off out of the room, winding down the hallway, through the house, and then exited through a curtained glass window, and she was too afraid to check it until the morning. But then, she found the window and the screen charred black, some burn marks. Whoa! She sent the screen to a lab in Roanoke, and a report came back saying that the screen had turned into a highly radioactive substance, otherwise known as cobalt-60. In other words, as soon as the ectoplasm touched the glass, it just turned into a radioactive element. I wonder if that's true.
Alarm starts going off, and it's blaring. I cannot believe this is happening. I'm looking around, and I'm scared again. And I'm like, what's going on? And I hear this alarm going off. So I go out in the hallway, and it turns out that it was a fire alarm, and there was, something made the fire alarm go off. And so it was just something else. I was like, when is this going to stop?
And I get jumped by black smoke. The black smoke just overwhelms me. She comes shooting out the front door. So I figure I'm going to clear the smoke from the club.
I think there are certain, perhaps, souls that need to find some peace somewhere, and that they return to whatever spot was important to them during their mortal life, and before they can pass on to the next plane and, to continue what I believe is a journey. Why wouldn't they come back here?
Perhaps the spirits of those who lived and died in Fort Mifflin still dwell within these walls.
Haunted Places, a National Directory, by Dennis Hawk, written in 1995. Now, last episode, we talked about Delaware, Newcastle, and the David Finney Inn. The Amstel House is related, and we'll describe why here. This house, built in the 17th century by Dr. John Finney, is haunted by the same mysterious presence, which haunts his son's residence, just down the street. The two homes were connected by a secret tunnel at one time. No one knows what for. Newcastle is on the Delaware River, just 5 miles south of Wilmington, on Highway 273. The house is a private residence on Delaware Street in the Newcastle Historical District, the oldest part of the city. New York, Shenango River Valley. Georgetown. An ornate house with icicle latticework hanging from its eaves was begun here in 1855 by spiritualist Timothy Brown. Timothy was a firm believer in spirits and the human ability to communicate with them, and he wanted to build a home that was suitable for them. Brown insisted that he was guided by spirits in building this house, which took 14 years for him to complete. According to witnesses, when Brown would attempt to hammer a nail in the wrong place, the spirits would not let him do it. On the upper floor of the house was a large seance room, known as Free Hall, where traveling mediums would come back and forth to communicate with spirits. Thousands of spiritualists from all over the world used to travel to Georgetown to behold the Spirit House. Timothy Brown joined the spirit world himself in 1885, 30 years later, dying at the age of 70, and his spirit is said to linger there too. Georgetown is in South Madison County at the junction of Highway 26 and Highway 80. The Spirit House is a private residence next to the Georgetown Baptist Church in Georgetown, New York. New York City. The Quantum Leap Cafe. What a cool name, right? The ground floor of this 3-story building is reputed to be haunted. The ground floor is divided into a duplex loft. At the rear of the lower room, several employees and customers have observed the ghost of a young man with penetrating black eyes, wearing a ruffled white shirt. He is thought to be the spirit of American statesman Aaron Burr, the one who shot Alexander Hamilton. Up to the 1830s, the building was part of Burr's stables. And you can see the fire station number 2, the Francis House, and Morris Jumwell Mansion in New York City, for related stories to Aaron Burr and his ghost. The cafe is near Sullivan Street, next door to the fire station in Greenwich Village. The natural food restaurant was previously known as Cafe Bazaar. North Carolina. Winston-Salem. Old Salem. The ghost of a Texan who died in the room of the Salem Tavern has been seen walking in the first-floor hallway. Before the Civil War, guests, maids, and the innkeeper all reported seeing the apparition, who asked that his brother be notified of his passing away. With that done, the haunting in the 212-year-old building ceased, but ghosts are still reported walking near the much more modern blacksmith area, which is not far from the tavern. The tavern and the blacksmith shop are part of the Old Salem Restoration Project in Salem Station, Winston-Salem, North Carolina. Pennsylvania. Bethlehem. Walden. An unknown black shape stalks the halls of this singing club, founded in 1891. Wow. The presence is most often detected in the old barn, the members' lounge, and the kitchen. Members have named the shy apparition Beethoven. The clubhouse is south of Bethlehem, actually, on Highway 412 in Northampton County. Poconos. The Starting Gate Tea Shop. This old homestead building was once part of the Underground Railroad network, which assisted runaway enslaved Africans in finding their freedom. It later became a sex worker shop, and then a speakeasy. And today, besides being haunted, it serves as a combination of tea shop and the Native American Museum. An obtrusive ghost is sometimes seen in the Native American section, and owners have named the spirit Eli. The museum also contains a life-size recreation of Masingwa, a Bigfoot creature said to roam in the Pocono Woods. Virginia. Charles City. Berry Hill. This old mansion is so haunted that no one wants to live here. Strange footsteps and the terrifying presence of an invisible entity have kept people from spending the night in the house at all. Some believe the ghost is the son of the original builder, who resents the estate being taken out of the hands of their family and would do anything to protect it. The Berry Hill Manor is now a museum, located near Westover, 22 miles west of Williamsburg, Highway 5, Virginia. Fredericksburg. The Lafayette Restaurant. The ghost of a young child, possibly a little girl, has been seen at this Georgian-style mansion. Sometimes the child's voice is heard singing. Footsteps are heard. Chairs rock by themselves. Doors and windows fly open or slam shut. Poltergeist activity, such as china flying across the room and glasses crashing to the floor, have also been reported. The distinctive house with its 2 towering chimneys was built in 1770 by Scottish merchant John Glassell. It was the childhood home of Nell Herndon, too. who later became President Chester Arthur's First Lady. The restaurant is on 623 Caroline Street in Fredericksburg. Haunted Virginia by Pamela K. Kinney. Chapter 32, Pirate Tales of Virginia. No matter what the movie Pirates of the Caribbean says, pirates have also been seen along the eastern seaboard, from New York to Florida and New England. There have been legends, myths, and true tales told about them in the Old Dominion, too. Because valuable cargoes traveled through the Chesapeake Bay, trade in Virginia often came to a standstill when pirates patrolled sea lanes and threatened the vessels, and they could not leave the safety of their ports. During one 6-week period, not a single ship dared to leave the safety of Virginia shores, because Blackbeard, as he was becoming more known, was the main cause of that panic. Using a summit, the pirate and his watchmen had an open view of the Chesapeake Bay, which the British Navy ineffectively could protect. Blackbeard inspired a pirate festival in Hampton that usually happens in the first weekend of June. Blackbeard is one of the tales of pirate lore in Virginia.